Ladies and gentlemen, during the last few weeks, much has been talked about the Geneva resolution, which was presented on the 23rd of March. And I felt that it is my duty as the Foreign Affairs Minister at the time when Sri Lanka, along with the US, UK and 40 other countries, co-sponsored the 30/1 resolution on our country. Actually, if we are to go back to the beginning, it was on the 23rd of May 2009, just a week after the conclusion of the deadly war with the LTT was concluded. The Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, came to Sri Lanka on the invitation of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. In the joint communique which was issued at the conclusion of this meeting, the two sides agreed to conduct an inquiry into the alleged war crimes and the alleged human rights violations in the country. And within 4 days of Mr. Ban Ki-moon's arrival, the United Nations Commission for Human Rights in Geneva called a special session on Sri Lanka to discuss the situation here. And for this session, Sri Lanka very hurriedly presented a resolution to UNHCR. This was the 25/1 resolution of March 2014, promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka, and to undertake a comprehensive investigation into the alleged serious violations and abuses of human rights and related crimes by both parties. In fact, this resolution, if it was to have been implemented, was quite a good one. And that is why the international community, not all, but most of them, with the hope that Sri Lanka will be bound by their promises, voted 29 in favor as opposed to 12 against. 29 countries supported Sri Lanka in 2009, where they even promised an accountability mechanism to look into human rights violations, talked about improving the human rights situation here, and even talked about the 13th Amendment for the first time, and in an international forum like the UNHCR. So they got 29 countries to support them, but unfortunately from that point onwards, like all other promises of the Rajapaksa era, they didn't bother to implement many of them. And that is why the trust within the international community kept decreasing, and in 2012, 29 fell to 15 votes supporting Sri Lanka government, 2013 supporting Sri Lanka only 13, and in 2014 when the Human Rights Commission set up the OHCHR investigation on Sri Lanka, that's in short called the OISL investigation, was established, and when Sri Lanka opposed that move by Geneva, only 12 people were left to support Sri Lanka, as opposed to 23 people supporting the UNHCR resolution with 12 abstentions. And this time we saw again our support base has fallen to 21 countries, and most of them autocracies who are more interested in hiding or protecting their atrocities than supporting Sri Lanka. It is in this context that I, when I became foreign minister, went to Geneva just a couple of weeks after the election. My first visit was to meet my good friend and whom I call my sister minister, Sushma Ji Swaraj. On the very day I was sworn in, I was in India meeting her, and then I went to Geneva to meet Prince Zaid. And I made a very special request from him, from both the Prime Minister and the President, for him not to go ahead with the 2014 commission. Because according to the resolution, the first report of that resolution was to be tabled in Geneva in March of 2015. In March of 2015. Fortunately for the country, the government changed on the 8th of January. I was there, I believe, in February, and we got them to agree not to table that report in March, and instead we requested time till September to submit our own resolution, which will cover the question of reconciliation and accountability. In fact, I told Prince Zaid at the time, and quoted from our manifesto of the election, the presidential election, item 93, since Sri Lanka is not a signatory to the Rome Statute regarding international jurisdiction with regard to war crimes, ensuring justice with regard to such matters will be the business of a national independent judicial mechanism. So we said, give us a little more time until September, we will present our resolution for a national independent judicial mechanism, and the Prime Minister, along with a group of top level experts, drafted this resolution, and then we invited the United States ambassador and then the United Kingdom ambassador also to co-sponsor this resolution. This whole idea that Sri Lanka sponsored a foreign resolution is an utter misleading lie. We managed to get the powerful countries to back us, and each and every word was approved by President Sirisena. This is President Sirisena's speech from the 4th of February 2016. I'm quoting, I clearly state that we are facing these resolutions in order to protect the pride and dignity of our country, our people and our security forces, and also to make our tri-forces to be internationally renowned armed forces. We should face these resolutions with patience, discipline and decorum, so that our country should be respectfully recognized by all international organizations, including the UNO and all states in the world. These are the very words of our President, and as a result, Sri Lanka got the friendship and the support of the whole world. In fact, when our joint resolution was presented in Geneva in September, not one country opposed it. Not one country opposed it. Now this time you saw when again another investigation was initiated in Geneva, Pakistan and China got up and opposed that. But here even China, Pakistan, Russia, all the power blocks in the world supported us. We had the Americans, we had the European Union, we had the British, we had the Japanese and India, of course, and most of all China and Russia. This, forgive me for saying so, but I believe was one of the golden moments in the foreign affairs, in the history of foreign policy in this country. Whatever anyone says, I will challenge him anywhere. to argue that this was actually a golden moment where we stuck to our words of carrying out a balanced foreign policy, and as a result, all countries appreciated it. And that is why we actually sowed many revolts, but the three which comes to my mind at the moment is that we were able to secure the GSP Plus concession again for Sri Lanka, which we had lost a couple of years before that, and also with the direct intervention of Prime Minister Wickremesinghe and myself in Geneva, we managed to also get the green card for the fisheries community, the fishing community of Sri Lanka, to again sell their tuna fish in the European Union, which was banned under the earlier regime. And also, we having discussions with Samantha Power, who was the United Nations ambassador at the UN, we requested that our army should again be submitted for peacekeeping matters, and having signed the Kigali agreement, etc., we were admitted, and I believe even today there are members of the armed forces gaining quite reasonably high salaries working in the peacekeeping forces. And Sri Lanka was celebrated by in other countries. I know for a fact during our time, President Obama apparently used to call Sri Lanka the good news country. And I still remember when we were visiting China with the president in 2016 or 17 at the G8 in Japan. Afterwards, President Sirisena was also invited after the main meeting. We went and took seats in advance before all other leaders, me behind Sirisena in the conference room. And it still brings me tears when I remember that scene when at 3 p.m. in the afternoon it was to start, and then as each leader walked into the room and saw President Sirisena, they walked up to him and shook his hands and then went to their seats. Obama, Cameron, Merkel, Justin Trudeau, Abe, all the leaders of the 8 countries, the most leading countries, first came right up to the Sri Lankan head of state, shook his hands, and then started talking about the issues. That was the kind of acceptance we managed to build within such a short time. But unfortunately, we have lost it, losing it, and now those who made Sri Lanka loved by the world are being called traitors, and those who actually did the treacherous work are pretending to be patriots. So that's why, finally, all I have to say is the people of this country, not to be fooled by grandstanding, not to be fooled by the same old lie repeated over and over again. Use your intelligence. Please listen to what others are saying. And then you decide who the real traitors are and who the true patriots are. Thank you.